So we just covered the story of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire telling Nina Turner, a black woman, to go pick crops for free. Yikes. So we talked about that, and we also have another slavery-related story today in the year of our Lord 2023. So this is in CBS News. Florida's new Black history curriculum says, quote, slaves developed skills that could be used for personal benefit. Really, Ronnie D? Really? This is where we're going with this? This is where we're going with this. It reminds me of the story about, remember how they got rid of AP African American Studies classes? Remember that? This is just the next logical step for these guys to do. Okay, so here's what they say. Florida's 2023 social studies curriculum will include lessons on how slaves develop skills that could be used for personal benefit, according to a copy of the state's academic standards reviewed by CBS. The lessons in question fall under the social studies curriculum's African American Studies section and be taught to students in 6th through 8th grade, according to the state standards. The lessons for that grade level will include teachings on understanding the causes, courses, and consequences of the slave trade in the colonies, and instruction on the differences and similarities between serfdom and slavery, the curriculum says. Students will also be asked to describe the contact of European explorers with systematic slave trading in Africa, see what they're doing there, and look at the history and evolution of slave codes. The line about personal benefit is included as a benchmark clarification to a lesson that asks students to examine the various duties and trades performed by slaves, such as agricultural work, domestic service, blacksmithing, and household tasks like tailoring and painting. The curriculum was approved by Florida's Board of Education on Wednesday. Vice President Kamala Harris called the lesson plan an attempt to gaslight students. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it, she said in a speech at Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc.'s National Convention. Jesus Christ, what a waste of time to go there. In Indiana on Thursday. We who share a collective experience in knowing we must honor history and our duty in the context of legacy. Jesus, even when she's making a point that's true, she can't help but be super duper wordy and annoying. I'm going to get to my grand theory on this in a second as to why I think they're doing what they're doing. It's actually not what I think, it's what I know. I know why they're doing what they're doing here. But let's go to Ronnie D, who was asked about it, and he reacted.
Well, you should talk to them about it. I mean, I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is, all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education. You can talk about those folks. But I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
That last point. These are scholars that put this together. Yeah, Ron. Well, there are also scholars who do CRT, critical race theory, and you're massively against that. But when these scholars say this, oh, no, this is not political. When they do it, it's political. When I do it, it's not. That's not political. We're just giving a factual retelling of history, bro. That's all this is. Look, the reason why they're doing this is very simple. And you see this throughout the U.S. education system. And to be fair, you see this in all different respective countries in their own education systems. What they're trying to do is this. Explain things in a way in our textbooks when we're discussing our history, where when the enemy nations do X, Y, and Z, it is morally condemnable, it is unethical, it is wrong, it is evil. When we do it, well, look, I mean, we made some mistakes in the past, but you got to understand, we meant well the entire time, and sometimes the mistakes had upsides, and so you have to understand it's actually a really complex and complicated situation, and we're still the good guys, and to show you, I mean, even when it comes to something bad that we did like slavery, there were still potential upsides of that. That's what they're doing here. It reminds me of, there was an argument that slave owners in the South used to make when they were talking about, when, the conversation started happening about abolishing slavery. They said, well, hold on now. We actually treat our black people better than you guys treat yours in the North. Why? Well, look, if you own something, you take care of it. If you own something, you make sure that, in this case, the person is fed, they're clean, they're healthy, they're in tip-top shape, because this is my property. I care about my property. You guys in the North, what do? You just rent black people. So you don't care about their health. You don't care about their well-being. You don't care about them in any way, shape, or form because you take no pride in it because you don't own them. You're just renting them. So there's a lower degree of care and concern. So actually, we think you guys are the racists, not us. I'm not kidding. This is a real historical thing. Chomsky's talked about it time and time again. So in other words, guys, systems of power come up with tortured logic, explanations and rationalizations and justifications to explain away our moral evils and harms. And it's been like this throughout history. Like any empire throughout all of history, no matter who it was, whether it was, some African empire, whether it was the Ottoman Empire, whether it was some Chinese dynasty, we always explain it through the lens, well, when we did it, we meant well. We were the good guys. It doesn't matter how egregious and harmful and over the line and wrong various actions are. It's like, well, let me tell you where we were coming from and why we did that. And like, when we do it, it doesn't count. When we do bad things, it doesn't count as just bad. It's a lot more complex. This is how every empire throughout history, every empire thought they were doing some like civilizing mission throughout the world. These are the pretty little lies you tell yourself when you're in the midst of being a barbaric, vicious, brutal empire. And this is exactly the mindset you see here, right? Exactly the mindset. So when it's us, oh my God, there's nuances, it's complex, it's complicated, it's not black and white, it's not like we just did something evil. Actually, there were some good things that came out of slavery. That's what's going on here. And this, by the way, is the drug of American exceptionalism. That's what it is. And this is what the conservatives are high on right now. They're high on this drug of American exceptionalism. So they don't want a factual retelling of history because in many instances, the U.S. would have to look in the mirror and say, look, we were just wrong. Not only were we wrong, it was evil and bad and immoral. Whether it be the Native American genocide, whether it be slavery, whether it be Jim Crow, whether it be, this is one that people still haven't grappled with yet, nuking Hiroshima and Nagasaki and incinerating hundreds of thousands of innocent Japanese civilians. From our history with our textbook, it's more like it was necessary. It was a necessary evil because this is the way we ended the war and really ushered in a new era of peace. And so actually the murder was justified and the terrorism was okay. And that's what these guys want to teach about America. That's what they want to teach. That's what they want to teach. They want you to think we're the good guys by definition. They're the bad guys by definition. So when you get a situation like with Ron DeSantis, where he was at Guantanamo Bay, he was directly involved in the torture of innocent people. Instead of looking at that for what it is, which is he's a monster, you could rationalize and justify and say, well, he was trying to keep America safe, right? He was keeping America safe. He was fighting against the terrorists. So really, he's a patriot, is he not? But if you flip it and you say, well, what about, somebody in the KGB was a torturer, and now they're in a high position of authority in the Russian government. People would look at that in the U.S. and go, well, that's immoral. That shows how evil they are. But when it's us, it's patriotism, and he was just trying to keep America safe. See, this is how they play with perspectives and context in order to get you to buy into a false reading of history. In this instance, for us, the reading is, were we really racist? Was this government really racist? Were we really all that bad? How can we highlight all the good things about America and act like they're wonderful, but then also downplay all the negative parts and act like, well, it's more complicated than you're letting on? This is revisionist history. So funny enough, he acts like, no, it's not political when I say, no, it is political when you do it. And by the way, let me just be clear, everything is political. No matter how you teach a course, it is from some political perspective. Even if you try to make it as dry and factual a retelling of history as possible, it is still political. Everything is political. But this is really shows you how he thinks and how, the largely conservative people in Florida, how they're shaping the minds of the youth. So now you can also understand that they try to act like, trans people don't exist and gay people don't exist. They're trying to will that into existence because that's their ideology. They view it as degeneracy. They view it as affront to the natural and normal order. And so they try to teach that and hammer that into kids' heads. It's propagandizing. This is propagandizing. I guess you could say it's kind of expected, right? Like I would expect this from Ronnie D. But it's still bad. It's still bad, and I expect a lot more of this from him. Now, by the way, he wanted to relaunch his campaign because he's been struggling in the polls. He just dropped below 20% for the first time. And so he's like, oh, we need a campaign reboot, bro. We got to get all over this campaign reboot thing. You know what I'm saying? And so what did we get out of that? You're going to love this. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign is planning a reboot, top campaign officials tell NBC News, with a significant shift on messaging, events, and media strategy. And Ben Collins says, senior reporter for NBC News, 10 hours later, he said he was going to have the state of Florida investigate Bud Light over an Instagram ad. Yeah, real hard reboot there, where you keep doing the exact same shit you were doing previously. His whole thing previously was like, bro, did you know I'm anti-woke? Did you know I'm against the triggered snowflake social justice warriors? I'm against the woke. I'm going to fight the woke in the mountains. I'm going to fight the woke in the trees. I'm going to fight the woke in a boat. I'm going to fight the woke with a goat. I'm just going to fight the woke, bro. We're rebooting the campaign because we're struggling. Anyway, my new idea is I'm going to fight the woke. I'm going to launch an official state investigation over a freaking Instagram ad with a trans person. He's flailing. He's not landing. And probably the biggest reason why, he's way too online. And when he actually lets people know what he really thinks, they're mortified. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.